A top government official in Iran making a landmark statement that the country's morality police has been abolished. But the status of the morality police remains unclear tonight. It's been the focus of months of protests in that country after a 22-year-old woman died in its custody in September. I want to welcome in Democratic Congressman Jim Costa of California, also a member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee. Congressman, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you. It's nice to be on NewsNation.
Thank you. Do you believe that Iran actually will be shutting down its morality police?
We'll see. I mean, anything that comes out of that Iranian government in terms of official spokespersons clearly is to be questioned. But what's most important is the brave Iranian women and those who have supported them in what is the longest protest since this theocracy has taken over. And we should do everything we possibly can to support them. This is a very, whether or not Iran is at a tipping point remains to be seen. But we just met with a group of European parliamentarians, and we all agree that we should do everything we can to support. Over 30% of over half the population of Iran is under 30 years of age. And this is I think, possibly a pivotal time in Iran.
I hear you. If the morality police is shut down, what does that practically mean for the freedoms for the people and for the women in that country? Does it automatically mean that women can have freedom of dress or have their hair uncovered?
Well, we hope so, but it remains to be seen. This is obviously a new step if they follow through with it. The morality police has been in effect since the theocracy of the Ayatollah took over with this government. So it would be a big change.
Do you believe that the government is likely to make more concessions?
Well, I think it really is dependent upon the continuation of the protests. I think there are other factors in play as well. Clearly, the health of the Ayatollah, we are told, is not good. There is a successionist watch that is going on as to who may succeed him and who's competing for power within that government. But I think we should remind ourselves the current president of Iran is one of the, in his previous position, is one of the bloodiest rulers in post Iran history. So I have little confidence in the president to make the necessary changes to restore a democratic rule in Iran.
Meanwhile, in China, I do want to ask you about the situation there. There have been pretty unprecedented protests in recent weeks sparked by their rigid COVID restrictions. We are hearing some of the rules are now being eased there. Is this a moment in time where we're also seeing another government making concessions to protesters?
It may be. I mean, clearly, China's COVID policy has failed. And these protests that have been taking place have been with, I think, a long impact of every city and state within China. And I think the Xi government, with the impacts that have taken place there, and you look at the economy that has suffered and the impacts of the lack of stability caused in part by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. And I think notwithstanding the 20th Party Congress in China and Xi's ability to waive the 2-term limits, the world has changed in China, it's changed in Iran, and certainly the world has changed as a result of Russia's invasion of Ukraine in ways that none of us could have thought about 10 months ago.
And I do want to ask you about the situation in Ukraine. I know you recently traveled to see the situation on the ground firsthand. Can you share with us, what did you witness there?
Well, I was there in September, and at a Yalta European Strategic Conference. And what we clearly understood, and I think continue today, is the will of the Ukrainian people remains strong. They are fighting not only for their sovereignty and their democracy, and Russia is losing on the battlefield. So
Thank you for watching. Go to newsnationnow.com to find News Nation on your television provider. And don't forget to click the red subscribe button below to get more of News Nation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.